We are learning to write a complication or problem using evaluative language, expanded noun groups, and compound sentences. I'm stuck! I'm stuck! Help!
Rabbit, I know, I've lost my marble. Whoops, I broke my egg.
What I'm looking for. Use of expanded noun groups to describe characters, settings, and events. Use of evaluative language to describe character qualities. And use of simple and compound sentences with correct punctuation. The language features of a complication are the same as a orientation. So you still use evaluative language, expanded noun groups, simple sentences, and compound sentences. So this is the second part of my imaginative narrative that I've written using the character Little Red Riding Hood. So we're going to have a look at the features and see if you can find some of them with me. I've continued on with my Red Riding Hood story from the orientation PowerPoint. So this is the complication for my story. As Red stepped foot into the dark, scary forest, she heard a loud, frightening noise. She ran as fast as she could, and she missed the track to her dear old grandma's house. Red was extremely frightened when she realized she was lost. She took out her mother's brand new phone from her basket and tried to use the GPS. There was no signal. Evaluative language is when we describe character, settings, or events using words to describe what they are like. So a character, it might be how they act, how they feel, or how they treat others. A setting might be how that character would feel in that setting. So can you find the two words that have a rectangle? So the first one is scary. That describes the character or the setting. What do you think? The setting. So the setting is a dark, scary forest, but the character feels that this forest is scary. So that's telling us how the character feels. So that's an evaluative word to describe the setting. Then we have the word dear for dear old grandma's house. So we describe the grandmother by being dear. That means Little Red Riding Hood really loves her. So she is dear to Red Riding Hood's heart. So that is evaluative language. Let's look at expanded noun groups. So don't forget, an expanded noun group has two adjectives or describing words that describe the noun, the person, place, or thing. So I've underlined the expanded noun groups in my story. So I have dark, scary forest. Dark and scary are adjectives. Forest is a noun. Then I have loud, frightening noise. What kinds of words are loud and frightening? They are adjectives. And noise is a noun. My next one is dear old grandma's house. We have three adjectives to describe this noun. So we have dear old grandma's, which are the adjectives, and house, which is the noun. The last one is brand new phone. What type of word is phone? It's a noun. What type of phone is it? Brand new. So they're the adjectives. Now we'll look at simple and compound sentences. A simple sentence has one idea, whereas a compound sentence has two ideas joined together with a conjunction. Can you find the two simple sentences? The first one is, as Red stepped foot into the dark, scary forest, she heard a loud, frightening noise. My other simple sentence is right at the end, and it says there was no signal. The other two sentences in my story are compound sentences. So let's look at the first one. She ran as fast as she could, and she missed the track to dear old grandma's house. What conjunction have they used there? Pause and have a look. Okay, did you find it? It is and. So I've joined my two simple sentences together with and. Now remember, we can only use and once in a sentence. My next compound sentence was, Red was extremely frightened when she realised she was lost. I've used the word when as a conjunction, and this will happen sometimes. My last compound sentence is, she took out her mother's brand new phone from her basket and tried to use the GPS. Now this is actually a complex sentence. The reason being, the second part, tried to use the GPS, does not make sense on its own. So a complex sentence is when you have a simple sentence and a sentence that doesn't make sense on its own. So that's a bit trickier, and we learn that towards the end of the year and definitely going into grade 3. Now that we've looked at the language features in our complication, I want you to tell me what the problem is. What is the problem that the main character Timothy is facing? Pause to tell the person beside you, or you could write it down. Okay, so what is the problem? The problem is that Timothy the rabbit is trying to get away from Jasper the owl. Now, the problem or the complication is what the main character faces, and the main character is Timothy. So the next part of a complication is the events leading up to solving the problem. We don't solve the problem just yet. We just have some things that the main character does to try and solve the problem. Pause to see if you can find those events. All right, so did you figure out what they were? So one of the ways that he's trying to solve the problem is he's hiding behind the trees. The next way was that when Jasper flew down to grab him by his ears, he hid inside a hollow log. Neither of these helps to solve the problem, but they are the events to work towards solving the problem. So at the end of my complication, I've left it where I want the reader to read on something that's interesting for them to want to find out what happens next. So I've said he's landed in a disgusting moldy nest. As a reader, I would be thinking, oh, what's going to happen when he's in that nest? Is he going to eat him? Is he going to use him as a play toy? So that makes me want to find out what happens next. In the next PowerPoint tomorrow, we will be looking at how Timothy solves his problem. So we don't solve the problem in the complication. It's just how he works towards it or tries to solve the problem. Good job, everybody.